welcome back, sports fans, as we continue part 2 of our discussion concerning NICO and the current state of the transfer portal and NIL and college football. And we'll get to the second part of that conversation in just a few moments. But we want to lead off by saying congratulations to the Oklahoma gymnastics team on winning the national championship. Another national championship for the SEC, where what do we say, Darren? It just
means more. Even if you're new to the league, Texas doing what they're doing, Oklahoma now has a national championship. Come on in. That's right.
We're going to start quoting "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" now.
The SEC is a geographic oddity.
Well, speaking of SEC dominance in sports, let's look at the current top 25 baseball rankings, where the SEC is well represented. Texas at number 1, LSU at 4, Tennessee 5, Arkansas 7, Vanderbilt 8, Georgia 9, Oklahoma 11, Auburn 12, Ole Miss 22, and Alabama at 24. So pretty fair representation in the top 25.
And 4 weeks left.
So Omaha is looming.
It is coming down the pike for sure.
It's going to be a fun one.
Absolutely.
We also want to take a moment to show some love to Lee Corso, who has touched all of our lives, who love college football. If you've ever watched College Gameday, you know who Lee Corso is. Lee Corso has been a contributor to college football as a player, as a coach, and probably most significantly as a commentator, analyst on College Gameday, where he has been a fixture for years now. And of course, he is the one that makes the famous headgear pick. Wherever Gameday is that particular Saturday, Corso will pick by putting on the team's headgear to show who he's selecting. Now, Darren, out of the most headgear picks that Lee Corso has made throughout his career on Gameday, out of the top 5, 3 of those schools are SEC.
Nice.
Can you name those 3?
I'm gonna, and this is completely and totally guess, because I thought you were gonna ask me who was the number 1, and my first thought was like Ohio State, which is
Ohio State is number 1. He's picked Ohio State more than any other school.
Well, there you go. That's that Big Ten bias and all the people complain about SEC bias, but anyway, Alabama, LSU, Florida.
You got it, my friend.
Did I really?
Corso has picked Ohio State 45 times, Alabama 38 times, LSU 25 times, and Florida 22 times. And then rounding out the top 5 was Oregon 21 times. So 3 SEC teams out of the top 5 that Coach Corso has picked. This year, week 1 has some terrific games. Texas, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson. Darren, which game do you think Corso is going to make his final pick at?
Well, let's say I'm assuming who's Texas playing?
Ohio State.
And it's in.
I think it's in Columbus.
I was to say it doesn't matter. That's the one there. Don't you think? How do you not?
Yeah,
I mean LSU Clemson is big, but I mean I think it'll be Texas Ohio State, especially with both of them being playoff teams. Last year, I think that'll be.
Yeah, Ohio State coming off a national championship. Texas debuting Arch Manning as their starting quarterback.
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, spot on. That's exactly.
So Coach Corso will be on Gameday only one more time. He won't be the rest of the season. He will be for that opening week where he'll make his final pick. So, Darren, thoughts on Lee Corso and memories that maybe you have watching College Gameday all these years?
Well, I actually got to see Coach Corso pick the headgear live one time. And he chose wrong, but that's okay. That's okay. It was 20. Actually, the poster you can just barely see a little bit of right here is from the year it was the year 2007, I believe, when Vanderbilt went to a bowl game. They started out 5-0 and played, or 4-0, and played Auburn, who is also undefeated, and Gameday came to town, which still to this day, the greatest sign ever at any game day was the guy standing off far to the right. That was because, Vanderbilt's always known as the smart school, that had the sign that said, "You guys are blocking the library." Just still my all-time favorite sign ever at game day. And he, unfortunately, Coach Corso chose Auburn that day, which ended up being an incorrect pick. Vanderbilt did have an interception in the fourth quarter to secure the win. But even though he picked wrong, the thing that I love being able to be there and see it is anytime he was doing anything, his ability to pull the crowd in. Even on that day when he chose Auburn, the first thing he did the old switcheroo. We've seen him do it 1,000 times, but to be there live was really, really fun. Reached under the desk, pulled out the Commodore head, got it almost on, and then tossed it, and then picked up the Tiger head and put it on. But his ability to pull in a crowd and work a crowd and truly being an entertainer while also giving you incredible insight is pretty impressive. It's one of the things that's always amazed me about him is how he could entertain, but also you could still see that football coach was still going. He was giving you some game film insight when he was talking. And it's amazing that there's an entire generation that's going to watch him in this last game and know him as nothing but the guy who put on the headgears. But that's still an incredible legacy. Even if that's all you know him as, that's an incredible legacy outside of the coaching and everything. Understand, right off in the sunset, think it's awesome for him, but man, he's going to be missed.
Yes, he's become a fixture Saturday college football. How many of us maybe switch to other networks to watch some pregame stuff on Saturday, but always make sure to at least get back to game day for Lee Corso's headgear pick.
Watch the final picks. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you, Lee Corso, for being such an important part of college football and for your analysis, your love for the game, and for making it fun for all of us to watch. We appreciate you, and you will be missed.
Herb Street's going to feel weird week 2 to know that it will not be Coach sitting beside him. That's going to feel very weird for Herb Street, for sure.
Yeah, it seems the two of them have really developed a strong friendship through College Game Day. So
absolutely.
Well, let's get on to the part 2 of our conversation about Nico Iamaleava, who recently, just to give an update before we go to the conversation, recently signed with UCLA for what we understand is less money than Tennessee was paying him, in addition to the great taxes that you get hit with in California. So even less than that. An interesting twist in all this, Darren, is that Joey Aguilar, former quarterback for Appalachian State, had transferred to UCLA. Well, now, as of today, he is transferring to Tennessee. Most likely, he's got 1 year left to be their starting quarterback.
And now, didn't he transfer during the fall portal window?
Yes.
He literally hasn't even played a snap at UCLA, correct?
Correct.
Just everything we've talked about in our conversation last week and what you're going to hear in the rest of the conversation this week. I mean, that sums it all up right there. Left Appalachian State, had spring practice at UCLA, and is now most likely going to be the starting quarterback at Tennessee. That says everything you need to say about college football in the state it's in today.
It's a new world, my friend.
It is. And, Nico, Tennessee fans will tell you without missing a beat, I'm sure, congratulations on picking a school that averages less than 6 wins a year and has only been to 4 bowls in the last 10 years and has only had 1 Heisman Trophy winner. Good call. All right. As crazy as this sounds, I just spoke for Tennessee fans. Makes me hurt a little bit, but it did.
It's touching to see the connection you've made with Vol fans.
It's kind of weird. Yeah.
What's the old quote? A common enemy makes strange bedfellows.
Exactly. I think we've seen that flesh out.
Well, let's get to part 2 of our conversation. So, with the NICO situation, if you listen to all the sports shows today, everyone wants to cast blame. Who is the person to blame? Right. So, I heard Ryan Clark blame the NCAA. I heard
Check.
Josh Pate. He blamed the people around NICO. And then I've heard countless others blame NICO. And really, I think what it comes down to is there's a little bit of all three that are to blame. The leadership in the NCAA is a big thing. Brandon, you brought up that this is kind of bringing things to a head. The people around NICO definitely seem to be giving him bad advice. But NICO is an adult, and he's being paid millions of dollars, and he has some blame in this as well. I mean, what do you guys think? Are we too quick to just try to pinpoint on one specific group or people or person, or is this really a combination of all three?
Brandon, go ahead.
It's definitely a combination, but I think the NCAA is definitely should take the majority of the blame. They started to pay players, sure, which in theory is okay. It's okay to do that. I don't have anything against paying players, but my goodness, like where are the regulations? Where's the limit? When does it stop? Like what is happening here? So of course players are going to just want more and more and more and more. I mean, that's natural, you know? So then you have to, I guess players and people advising them need to have some sort of reality check, you know? Nico Leva he threw what 7 touchdowns against SEC teams last year. I mean, he was on track to get much better this year, sure. But like at the end of the day, it's like, come on, man. Like don't ask for that. Don't ask for that. You can't double your salary and then ask for $1 million sports car and threaten to sit out a playoff game. I mean, so he's got some blame too. But it really goes all 3 ways, honestly.
And Ben, I do hear and understand your point about yes, he is an adult. He is over age 18. But I won't speak for anybody else in the conversation. But for me personally, I am very, very thankful and consider it a blessing that when I was 20, 21 years old, no one was writing me a $2 million check. I would love to think that I would be this sound, oh, this is going to be the greatest, and I'm handing out blessings and I'm doing everything right. But I know me at 21. I don't think that would have went well. So I think that's where part of it goes back to the NCAA. To just like we talked about last week, we didn't even know the NICO thing was happening, but we talked about this last week. To go to spend years where players could lose eligibility, coaches could lose victory, win counts that their jobs were tied to because players were being given Taco Bell or at one point it was illegal. There were players, Bruce Pearl and the whole Tennessee thing. He had a cookout. There were players, there were teams and programs that had not the most severe, but still had sanctions placed against them because it was illegal to walk recruits out onto the field and introduce them like it's game day at one point. So to go from that to, well, we can't enforce anything, it's a free for all, is just craziness. And that has to lie at the NCAA's feet. The years of stubbornness where we're going to do it our way, no matter what, is the very reason we're here where we are today. So, yes, is there other blame to go around? Absolutely. But that is where the largest chunk is and where it starts. And I will also say My understanding is Nico, his father is one of the people involved. Brandon, I think you said that earlier. He's got a father, is an agent, and maybe a couple other things. That's not okay either. You've got to, there's got to be more to that, more in that conversation than just how big of our check's going to be if it's a familial or parental relationship that's involved and not just an agent. I don't want to be ugly because I don't personally know any agents, but I also know that the word agent in college football today is very loosely used. It's the person that signs that side of the contract who might be a cousin or a guy that lived down the street. So it's very loosely used. So you almost kind of expect that. Well, let's get money now because they're getting part of the pie. But if it's a familial relationship or parental relationship, especially, there's got to be more than that. I don't think that's okay either, and I think there's a big chunk of blame to go there too.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Going back to something that Brandon said, this started in December.
Yeah.
And this was going on during your team makes the playoff, the first 4-team playoff. You make it, and there's a chance that
Instead of
you
being
might not
excited,
play because you want more
instead of
money.
being excited, it's like, I want more money, or I'm
Yeah.
going to sit out.
It's leverage.
That's my issue with Nico here. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, agree.
Wait till the season's over.
Nico Iamaleava could care less about Tennessee. Tennessee made grounds on being the first university to be dumb enough to give a high school kid $2 million a year. That's why he came there in the first place.
And wasn't there some trouble? He was recruited because they flew him in on a charter jet and they weren't supposed to.
Something like that, yeah.
There was something that went down, and of course that was ended up being tossed. The courts were like, "Are you kidding? You're going to try to make a rule now?"
Tennessee went to court over this kid.
Yeah, exactly.
And won, but I mean, I guess he thought, hey, they've done it before, so hey, they'll do it again, right?
Yeah.
And but they bowed up and turned him down, thankfully, which set a precedent for every other university, hopefully. I am so, I don't know if anxious is the word, but I just can't wait to see where he ends up and what they pay him. And I hope he ends up at I'm from Cookeville, Tennessee. Maybe he'll come to Tennessee Tech and they'll offer him free cheddars for the rest of his career. That's all he gets.
If Watson Brown was still at Tennessee Tech, he wouldn't have let him in. Let's be clear about that.
True. That's true. But I mean, I'm just joking. I mean, I don't hope bad things for him, but I just think it'd be awfully ironic if he couldn't get a deal worth more than what Tennessee was going to pay him. Like, what if the best he can get's like 1.5 now instead of 2? Just because I think he's going to be made an example of. And
unconfirmed reports. These are just things that I've simply seen people throw out either on YouTube or Twitter. And I won't even consider it a source. So I'm just going to say unconfirmed reports is, of course, Ohio State's name's already being mentioned. Of
for
course.
$4 million?
Yeah. Just because they seem to have the endless cash cow. But the other unconfirmed report that I have also heard just before we started recording was that money actually put on the table. Here's what we're willing to offer. Don't know a dollar amount, but money actually put on the table. Here's what we're willing to offer. Tulane is the leader in the clubhouse. Now,
Ben and I
could
were
be
that off camera, but
it could be that they're the only ones that have put any money out there, and it's $150,000. I don't know. I'm just saying that's the unconfirmed report.
If Nico ends up in Tulane, like, no offense to Tulane by any means, but like, really,
hey, Tulane has more SEC football championships than Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if that's true.
Well,
It is. I
Tennessee is
just don't need to talk about it
obviously,
though.
without a doubt, all about money at that point.
Well, I
With
mean, here's the thing: if a Tulane or a UNLV with
Dan
just
Mullen.
blank on his name,
there you go.
Dan Mullen. I mean, if they write a $4 million check, why would we think he wouldn't go there?
They can give him a line of credit at a casino and just, I mean, my goodness.
There might be a little bit of money in Las Vegas if somebody wanted to
Right?
write a check. I mean,
That'd be a story if UNLV.
Well, the rumor is right now that their athletic programs having some trouble, and there's assistants that are concerned that they're not going to get a paycheck. So I don't know how much money UNLV is going to be writing, but
they literally can't even afford the last 2 years of
Mullen's
his
contract.
Yeah,
Yep.
like they're just
Yeah.
banking on being successful and making some money quick.
I mean, you never know.
They can't afford his contract.
UNLV
Yeah.
hasn't shoveled out that much money since Jerry Tarkanian. And
Right?
the running ribs,
And there was some money.
Oh boy, and there were some great teams that came out of that too. Hello.
That was SMU money that was rolling through during those days.
But I mean, I hope the best for Nico. He's going to move along and do whatever, be wherever. But as far as Tennessee football goes, Merklinger is the man now, and we've got to rally behind him. I think we need to add a quarterback from the portal. Hopefully, just the natural thing would just bring Gaston Moore back. He hit the portal, so maybe they'll reach out to him and come back. But there's a few options. There's Agbana, I believe, from Buffalo. There's a quarterback from an HBCU, Arkansas Pine Bluff. That's a great player that could add some veteran presence.
Brandon, for a couple $1 million, you could get an in-state quarterback named Diego, probably.
You
Sure.
take that out of your mouth.
Yeah. That'd be great. That'd be great. We can have
that might start a war. I'm just saying.
When they beat, like, I don't know who their cupcake is this upcoming season, honestly, but when they beat someone like Rice, we can have Diego cussing on live TV and then praising Jesus right immediately after.
Well, in his defense, it was at least after he beat Alabama, not Rice.
Right.
It was.
He looked good in orange, I think, but
oh, just don't. That's too much. I just can't. All right. Y'all have a good one.
That would be a fun show to tape. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I can't even.
But Merklinger's a great athlete, 4-star recruit, many accolades in high school, all state, never won a state championship, which I don't know if that really matters, but he's a great player. I think he was like the 25th best quarterback in his class. I mean, he's got some intangibles. He's got size. He's going to be a great player. Hopefully he's not thrown into the fire too early, but we'll see.
Yeah, your problem with your QB room right now is experience. Because you've also got
they have a true freshman.
Yeah, McIntyre.
Yeah,
McIntyre, and he is an athlete.
Oh, he is built almost exactly like Nico. He's 6'6", like 195 pounds, which is
and
basically
has
the same size.
A cannon.
Oh yeah. Great player.
Should have come to Vanderbilt where his grandfather coached. But
exactly.
Nonetheless,
I mean, that stings.
It does.
But hopefully he can save. Hopefully he can continue to redshirt and not have to use a year just to be a backup. So hopefully he can save that red shirt and we sign someone in the portal and everything works out. But I've already seen like projections for week 1. Tennessee plays Syracuse and Tennessee's already, favorite. Vegas says they're going to lose that game. And that was not the case 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah, if I were a betting man, I'd take that line. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think.
Um, Tennessee, they're going to take a hit. They're probably going to lose some games that they shouldn't, just because we have a freshman quarterback that's never played, that wasn't expecting to play, I should say.
Mhm.
It's just a big shock to the system, and there's going to be a lot of adjustments that have to be made quickly.
Yeah.
And I hate I hate that the first ever NIL holdout or whatever happened to be in Knoxville of all places. Like, come on, like, gosh,
Well, yeah,
that stinks. But
it is unfortunate that two of the ugliest NIL circumstances have both been in the SEC.
right,
That whole deal that went down. I can't remember his name, but the Florida quarterback that
Lagway.
signed. No. It's not the one that went there, but the one that pulled out. He
Oh,
signed a deal.
Rashada, was it
Yes,
Rashada?
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an ugly deal where
Yes,
he came in, he was signed, all was well, and then the NIL was kind of like, oops, we don't think we have it. That yeah, you really hate that the two ugliest ones so far have been in the SEC. That's unfortunate. I'd rather it be in the Big Ten, but
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, so I went to that Tennessee Ohio State game, and
Oh, that's
you know,
right. That's right.
from the get go, like, golly, Tennessee came out with their shirts off. I don't know if you guys saw that quote by I don't even remember the guy's name. Who was Ohio State's quarterback? Uh,
Will Howard, is that
Will
right?
Howard. Sure.
Yeah.
He was like talking with John Gruden, and he said as soon as he saw those Tennessee guys with their shirts off, he knew the game was over at that point. Like, it was over. Like, these guys are clowns. That's what he said. Um, and then Nico comes out there like dragging around like what was he? Gosh, 104 passing yards.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
rough.
uh, that was rough, but I didn't enjoy my time in Columbus, to say the least.
Well, you watch your team get beat, underperform. I don't think that's being ugly. I think that's an
Right? Oh
accurate
yeah, oh yeah.
underperform, and all of that while it was what -3 or whatever the
Oh yeah,
temperature.
oh yeah. That's another thing.
That's a really worst case scenario.
But
Yeah.
then, I had all that going. I experienced all that, and then I find out that Nico probably
Yeah.
Nico probably was he threw that game on purpose. It seems like at this point, like, he didn't want to be
Well,
out there. He wanted more. All he cared about was money. He didn't care about Tennessee. He didn't care if they won or lost the game. That just stings. It stings. It's
and even if you're not willing to go that far, you could still say I don't think it's a leap to say obviously he was distracted. If
oh
there's conversation
yep.
about NIL contracts and who's going to pay me, obviously your head's not in the game plan. You're having conversations that do not involve third and short yardage and what the receivers are going to be doing, and that's an issue. And it comes out in games like that because that's a very high pressure. It's very razor thin margins when you're playing a team on the level of an Ohio State. And if you're having other conversations about other things, you have to believe that played a part of it.
I mean, we had no one knew about this at all.
Right.
Well, I mean, who's to say that? Like, how many other uh, big time college quarterbacks have been affected by this same situation that we don't know about? Man, it's like, hey, this guy really stunk it up in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do we know that wasn't the reason why? It could have been. Um,
I think it's very legitimate to say one of the unintended consequences that everyone involved, the decision makers involved, should have been able to see coming is when you start dealing with this much money in this age group in a sport that's already out of control, it's going to affect play on the field and the locker room. I mean, I think that's kind of a no brainer. I think.
Well, we see that not just in football, but think about what we were talking about a few weeks ago with West Virginia men's basketball and the whole situation up
Absolutely.
there, and how the head coach, it looks like he kept his son out of those games when he could have been playing because he was already talking to Indiana and planning his exit strategy. So I don't. How do you regulate the ethics? I think it's a character question for people. And when a kid, you got your team in the playoffs, and the kid's more concerned about getting more money or thinking I'm out of here, I want to make sure I don't get hurt. Those are character questions.
Yep, absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah, DeVries has he's basically on the same level in Morgantown as Lane Kiffin is in Knoxville.
That's a great comparison.
I know this isn't a Big 12 podcast by any means, but I live right here in West Virginia, and it is a big deal. That guy.
Oh, I can only imagine.
My goodness. I took a picture with that guy, and I was so happy, and I want to just take it off Facebook. but man,
your relationship status is now complicated.
What is this? It's sleazy how, and it's all about what's next. It's what's what's next, and loyalty is starting to disappear. Like it's hard for
I would say it's becoming more obvious that it's disappearing, not that it's starting to disappear. I think it's becoming more obvious.
And the point we're making here is it's players and it's coaches. One of the quotes that Jay Billis has repeated the last month or so is the transfer portal is always open for coaches.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like McNeese State's men.
Yeah,
basketball.
Will Wade.
Will Wade. Ben's favorite, by the way.
Oh, Will Wade,
absolutely his favorite.
They still had a tournament game, and these players are like, man, this guy's already got 1 foot out the door. Like, and I mean, there's just no. It's just all about bigger, better, grass is greener situations, more money.
I will say one difference in the Will Wade and Darren DeVries is that Will Wade, in this case, he was very upfront with everybody.
He was upfront about it.
He told his players.
This is our ride.
DeVries was deceptive about it.
Yep. But did Will Wade tell his players before the information was leaked?
Oh yeah.
That's part. Yes, that's part of how it leaked.
Mm-hmm.
His players. He told.
Okay.
He was upfront with his players. Is my understanding.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. Mm-hmm. Great. Good for him.
Yeah.
Maybe he learned.
He learned from what happened to LSU.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, DeVries. Good luck pleasing Indiana fans.
Well, that's all I gotta say. How many people outside of Bob Knight has that worked out for? Let's be honest.
Exactly. They're still trying to find his successor, aren't they?
Exactly. The thing about it is, we were talking about blame earlier, and I think we've hit a really good point. Of course, I've been very clear. I think the NCAA, boy, that's where the largest, because everything we're talking about, how things are working right now, is because of. I mean, it was a problem decades ago. This is not something that just come up in the last couple of years. The way the NCAA was handling things decades ago is the reason or refusing to handle things is the reason we're where we are now. But I also think another piece of that is being, like you said, the quote of the coaches' transfer portals never closed. A little bit of this blame lays at coaches as well, not Josh Heupel, because to his credit, he has modeled. You cannot. He has modeled everything he needs to as a coach and as a mentor to players. But how many of these guys watch this every single year? The very thing we're talking about with DeVries, the very thing, how many times have we seen it in football? I mean, even Ben, my apologies in advance, even Nick Saban, had a conference at Miami and said, I am not going anywhere. And then did what? Ended up on the plane the next day headed to Alabama. Yeah, how many times have we seen this? And you would think that has to lead just a little bit to this thought process of, well, everybody around me seems to be really concerned about getting theirs. Maybe I should do the same.
Yeah.
I think that's got to be a little bit of the blame as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point.
So what what would be the fix to it? Like contracts, signed contracts, it's written in stone, and you agreed to this, and you're going to stick with this, and you're not going to ask for any more money, and it is what it is. And if you don't want it, then hit the transfer portal. Like, would that fix it?
Well, I think me personally, I think the inevitable path we're headed to is it being contracts with the schools. The schools actually play the players. We end up with a college football, college basketball, or maybe just a college athletes players union. Because and they start negotiating deals. I don't know any other, for me personally, I don't know any other end result in this, because how can you, with the very thing we just talked about, how can you say to a 19-year-old that potentially, I mean, let's remove a Nico. Let's talk about a tight end that may or may not, his best hope might be a practice squad position in the pros. His 4 years at an SEC school might be his greatest earning potential when it comes to football. How can you tell him he has to sign a one-time deal that's ironclad and then his coach bolt next year from his ironclad contract?
Yeah.
How many agents are going to let stuff like that happen? So I unfortunately, I think that the schools making the contracts and becoming part of a scholar, the contract is a scholarship, that reciprocal kind of, you have 4 years of education, but we also expect 4 years of performance, and it ended up being a players union kind of thing. I mean, there are smarter minds than me that I'm sure that can figure out a different option, but that seems to be where we're headed.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately.
But I wish there was a better solution, because, man, I love college football, and I don't like the direction right now. It's painful to watch when you see stuff like what's going on this weekend, just for the game. It's hard to watch.
Yeah. Certainly we didn't, Darren, cover all the far range of topics involved with the NIL transfer portal, but I think we got a good start, and I know this conversation is probably going to continue. If you enjoyed the conversation, would you hit that like button, that subscribe button? That means a lot to us. Let your friends know about the show. We continue to cover all SEC sports, and next week we're going to take a look at coaches in the SEC, Darren. So I'm looking forward to that conversation, and Brandon's going to be back for that. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we have to have Brandon back. I mean, goodness gracious, he knows what the new head coach at Missouri was doing last Thursday for lunch. I mean, we have to have Brandon back. I don't think we have a choice.
Well said, my friend. We'll look forward to seeing you on that episode. And until then, y'all take care.
Have a great week. Thank you for making the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast your go-to sports show. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show if you haven't already. Your feedback is important. Let us know what you think about this week's show. Send an email to brewandshavers@gmail.com or text to our text line, 318-390-3599. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for listening to the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast. See you next week.